Hello and welcome to my channel Malavika's Magic. Today I'll be sharing with you my views on need for literature review. Let me take you to the roadmap of my presentation. First, I will be talking about the concept of literature review. Second, I will deal with the purpose. Third, I will explain to you the steps of writing the literature review. Fourth, I will talk to you about the types of literature review. So first, let us begin with the concept of literature review. So here I begin with the meaning of literature review. So literature review means a survey that discusses published information. It also establishes in an in-depth understanding and knowledge of the researcher in that particular area. It also tells the reader how the knowledge has changed within the field, and it identifies the research gap that is still unexplored, and it demonstrates how the research fits within a larger field of study. Having understood the meaning, let us have a better understanding of writing a literature review with the help of examples. So here I have an example. So in this paper, a DSRC LTE combined with the Wi-Fi technology is used to develop a vehicular system. Now, while writing the literature review, it is mandatory that as a researcher, we are going to use terms that could be understood by all readers. So if this abbreviated term could be understood only by a particular set of readers, then I need to elaborate on this term. So here I need to, if I elaborate on this term, it can be understood by everyone. So therefore, as a researcher, I'm going to take care not to use an abbreviated term and try to write the literature review or write the beginning, the first sentence of the literature review. And then we can see that the researcher has given credit to one particular researcher and elaborated the contribution of this researcher. While elaborating, the researcher has not summarized the contribution of the researcher and thus, has given a detailed explanation of how the research has been carried out or how the research, what kind of research the researcher has done. So therefore, it is mandatory that when we write literature review, it is essential to summarize the contribution of the researcher in our own words, and we also have to take into consideration that the reader should understand what we summarize. So let us look at another sample literature review. At present, in many underdeveloped countries, farmer manually takes the data of the present environment in the field and thereby does the various tasks physically according to the data. Now, in this particular research paper, the researcher has cited the researcher's contribution, different researchers' contribution in his own words, and also he has tried to make it into a brief and concise, presentation of each researcher's contribution. So therefore, it becomes easier for the readers to understand what it is that the researchers have contributed in that particular area. And moreover, it becomes easier for the readers to understand what is the purpose and aim of the researcher. So here it is clearly mentioned that he's talking about the contribution of the researchers in the field of using IoT technology and how IoT technology can be used to actually minimize the ease in and various process of working. And so therefore, we can understand that the researcher will also implement the use of IoT technology in doing something. And so here, with both the samples, we have understood that the contribution of the researchers have to be narrowed down, have to be summarized in own words, and have to be presented to the readers in a concise and precise manner. Now, let us now move on to the next topic, that what is the purpose of literature review? The purpose of literature review could be not only give credit to the other researchers, but also to avoid duplication of the research work. That is, we are not going to repeat the same research work that has already been done. In that way, we are avoiding plagiarism. We are trying to say that we are doing something new in our research work. So therefore, citing the other researchers' contribution becomes mandatory, becomes useful, becomes necessary. And so in that case, we need to critically evaluate the contribution of the other researchers, critically evaluate in terms of understanding what is the contribution, how they have gone about, trying to prove or trying to give evidence of the contribution, and whether, anything else can be done in that particular area, With the change in times, there have been many technological devices can be introduced, and this can have an impact on the outcome or on the results of that particular research. So in this way, we are justifying the need for additional research. We are also trying to place our own research in the context of existing research, making a case why further study is needed. So having understood the aim of literature review, let us now move on to the steps that are required to follow while writing a literature review. So the first step is uh, we have to search for relevant literature. Now we search for relevant literature in renowned journals. That is, we refer to renowned journals which is Scopus indexed or which comes under Google Scholar indexes, so that we can refer to those articles, and those articles we can find out what could be the contribution of the researcher in that particular area. So it is necessary to find out to go to this particular journals, because this contribution of the researchers could not only help us to have an in-depth information about the knowledge of in that particular area, but also we get information about the other contributions of other researchers as well. Now, next important point to remember is while we are searching, we have to note down information about the author, that is the author's full name and the title of his paper, the name of the journal where it was published, or the place of publication, the year of publication, and of course the page numbers that are relevant for our study. So this, while noting out down this information, it becomes essential to remember that this information will help us in the next step. That is when we're evaluating our sources. So when we're evaluating our sources, we will refer to only those articles that is relevant to the topic that we have selected. And we'll find out only those articles, those page numbers which I've already noted down. We'll go back to those page numbers and we'll find out whether that article is relevant or that contribution of the researcher can be used in our it can be used for our paper or can be used for the topic that we have selected. And once we've evaluated our sources, now we have to identify the themes that the researcher has mentioned in his research paper, or the debates that has occurred because of this the research in this particular area, or the gaps in this research by this particular area. Once we do that, then we need to outline the structure. So how do we outline the structure? I'll be talking a little later, and then we start writing the literature review. So next we move on to the types of writing the literature, different literature reviews. So I'll be talking here how to outline the structure of a literature review. So here I'll talk about the 4 types of literature review. That is a chronological sequence, that is the year-wise contribution of the researcher can be mentioned. Then the thematic, that is theme-wise contribution of the researcher. Then next is the methodological researcher contribution, where we talk about the state of knowledge in a particular topic, and the thematic contribution, theoretical contribution, that is the contribution of the researcher in terms of the theory of that particular topic, or the theory related to the particular topic, and how the theory has developed over the years. So these are the 4 types. So let us deal with some examples. So here I have an example for you, which is related to the use of listening strategies. And as you can see, and as you can read it for yourself, that this is an example of the chronological sequence, because from 1999, the researcher has moved to the contribution of the researcher in 2008. So therefore, it is a yearly contribution of research that has taken place in the use of listening strategies by learners. And then we have another example which deals with the thematic contribution of the researcher. So here we can see that the researcher talks about the contribution in 2006, but at the end of the literature review, it talks about the contribution of a researcher in 1989. So the theme-wise, thematically, the relevance of the contribution of the researcher that fits into the topic that has been selected by the particular researcher. So now we move on to the next type of example, that is the methodological. We talk about the knowledge in a particular field, the knowledge that has been developed in a particular field. As you can see, we're talking about collaborative working. So we talk about the meaning of collaboration and the concept of collaboration as stated by researcher, and then we move on onto how the collaboration, the concept of collaboration has been changed over the years, and how with the advent of technological revolution, how the concept of collaboration has been approached in that period. So this is how, in a methodological contribution, we talk about the different types of contribution that has been made by the researcher in a particular topic, in a particular area. So now let us move on to the theoretical contribution. So here we are talking about the use of lexicography, and that is the number of popular myths and stereotypes in meta-lexicographic research that are hampering progress in the field. And actually, the author of this particular literature review is actually becoming very critical when he talks about the lexicographer Anna, who has become notorious for her remarks on practical lexicography, has no theoretical basis, that even the best lexicographers, when pressed, can never explain what they're doing or why. So when we are critically evaluating, we can only use those kind of words, or we can use, very harsh words about a particular researcher only when we have in-depth or profound knowledge in that particular area. Otherwise, critical evaluation doesn't mean, using those harsh words. It means that understanding the contribution of the researcher, and it also means that we need to negate what the researcher, we can also negate what the researchers have done, or the research work that the researchers have done, in a very polite and humble manner, and thereby we can point out how, or we can provide evidence how that researcher's contribution can be proved otherwise from by doing a research in that particular area. So this is one example of a theoretical type of literature review. Now, having understood the different types of literature review, this becomes the outline of a structure. And when we do the outline of the structure, then it becomes easier for us to write the proper literature review in the next stage. So having understood this, let me now thank you for all of you for patient listening.